Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It is still in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Reach out to me directly. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. Today we discuss a 2020 release. This is the white gold version of the Lange Söhne Odysseus sports watch. In white gold, really gray gold, more on that in a moment, the watch is 40.5 millimeters in diameter, 11.3 millimeters thick, and from end link to end link, total distance across the wrist is 52.2 millimeters. And that is how you're going to wear it, because you can see that there is a release trigger, but that release trigger is for the strap. The end link is actually integral to the lug, and short of the first roughly 200 examples of the steel watch made, that is how every Odysseus has been built. So throwing it on the wrist, knowing it's a little bit more than 52 millimeters lug to lug, let's see how it wears on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. It is very flat, and with a domed bezel, easily slides under a cuff. The strap is super flexible, and to its credit, it can be pulled straight down out of the lug, so the fit is pretty good. You can also see that there's a little bit of bolstering, but that bolstering comes to an end where it abuts the wrist, so it sort of cradles the wrist on both sides. I'm going to recommend that you have a wrist of 15 centimeters circumference or larger to wear this. You can see over the top, those end links are right out to the edge of my wrist, but it's also evident when you look down the barrel. So again, I think this is a watch you want to be 16 centimeters or at least 15 with a very flat and broad wrist. Strap is nicely made, and like a lot of straps on watches in this class, it's designed to look as integrated as if it were on a bracelet. So it has this sort of swell to it, so it matches the swell and flare of the lugs, but then it tapers as you move away from the lugs. The end links are visually continued in the form of fine striations. On the underside, you can see this is a brand new Lange factory strap. It has little recesses and hollows to reduce the material and make it more pliant, but also to vent the wrist and avoid trapping moisture, heat, sweat, grit on a hot day. I have always loved Lange's pin buckles, and this one is Odysseus specific, but it has two features in common with what you'll see on the dress watches. One is that the bridge is elevated over the flanking parts of the buckle so that the strap sits flush inside the buckle rather than stacking up underneath. The other feature is this retaining bar. So if you're like me and you can use the smallest hole, sometimes when tightly strapped on a small wrist, the strap can get pinned on the pin. Well, this little retaining bar prevents that from happening. Also, BRO, what is that? That's Brogioli. It is a Swiss bracelet and clasp manufacturer that built the buckle for this watch. Lange is a fully integrated movement manufacturer, but does not make cases, clasps, and bracelets. So Brogioli is the supplier for this buckle. It also makes the steel bracelets and clasps for the steel version. That's why there is the Brogioli maker's mark and a Swiss hallmark on this component of a German watch. You'll also note how sharp the character lines and the facets are externally, with a distinction between polish and satin that you just don't find on the Lange dress watch buckles. This is an Odysseus specific piece. Well, let's take another look here, because we talked about the manufacturer of the case, SUG. So this is interesting because SUG is actually a case maker associated with Zinn. They make a lot of precious metal cases for German watch brands, including Haute Horlogerie, which is why you have SUG here. Now, the watch has a relatively complex case, but you do have Günter Blumlein's signature stepped lugs. He was the German watch executive who, along with Hartmut Knote and Walter Lange, reestablished a Lange Söhne in the early 90s, and he wanted something that would set the watches apart. So this step lug design is what he came up with, and it works well here. You can see this is not a standard Lange case. We do have quasi-integration of the strap or bracelet, and then we have this faceted outwardly stepped case band, a nice contrast between satin and polish. It's somewhere between a traditional round Lange case and the tonneau that is ubiquitous in the integrated bracelet sports watch class. We have a screw-down crown. We do have 120 meters of water resistance. And then we've got quite a bit of luminescence. So this is an easy watch to read in the dark. Taking a look at the dial, two things to shout out. First, wonderful texture. I love it. We have a sunray motif outboard. It's echoed in the small seconds. White gold hands, white gold indices, white gold frames for the date. These parts will never oxidize or tarnish because of their precious metal composition. Outboard, we have a satin silver flange that acts as a track for reading the minutes. And then we have a red 60, a traditional element in German watchmaking, made in Germany in the town of Glashütte, a traditional artisanal center, once known for glass blowing and for silversmithing. And from 1845 on, thanks to founder F.A. Lange, a center of watchmaking excellence in the state of Saxony, East Germany. Now we have this pusher adjuster that allows us to quickly adjust Lange's signature panorama datum. This is a date watch. We have a quick set for both. And when the crown is screwed out and withdrawn, we activate the hacking or stop seconds function. Now we can set the watch to a reference time. The center disc of the dial is downwardly stepped, giving us several focal planes on this beautifully laid out dial. Another element I want to shout out here real quick. Notice how the font on the sub-seconds and the chaptering and the date disc, it's the same font in every case. Outstanding attention to detail. We have a Lange branded crown. You can see how the pushers for the day and the date are perfectly integrated into the crown shoulder. You wouldn't know they were there if I didn't tell you. The movement is based on the L086 automatic, but there are some changes. For one, it has a dual anchored full balance bridge rather than a single-sided balance cock. The result is that it is more shock resistant. It also is the first Lange movement to operate at 4 Hz rather than 3 or 2.5. The higher beat rate considered more compatible with precision in high-impact jostling applications. The new movement, thusly changed, is called L1551. You can see that the movement's made of German silver, which is a nickel-copper-zinc alloy associated with the pocket watch era. It is a 3/4 style bridge that incorporates the train and the winding system. Again, these are pocket watch-inspired elements that link modern Lange watches to the heyday of pocket watch manufacture in Eastern Germany during the 19th and early 20th century, before a lot of that heritage was lost in the collectivization of horology under the communists from 1951 to 1954. So all of these elements hark back to that era. Now, German silver is not silver. It's an alloy of nickel, copper, and zinc, with the copper giving it its golden hue. It's actually the same material in a different proportion that's used to make most guitar frets. The rotor, as you can see, nickel anthracite, but nicely finished with media blast satin and then beveling on its edge. A platinum mass, no expense spared, fixed to the rotor using fire-blued screws. With a platinum mass, you have utmost winding efficiency and ceramic rotor bearings to reduce friction even further. 50-hour power reserve, and as you can see, it is adjusted in 5 positions, which is the high horology and chronometer standard. It pivots on 31 joules. The engine turning outboard of the center bridge is beautiful, 2 different sizes as you can see. Look at the quality of the anglage beveling. We have both polished screws, which are generally used for adjustments, and then fired blue screws, which are used to fix components in place. We have a freehand engraved balance bridge here. This is done with a burin by eye, hand, coordination, and craft knowledge. It is not done with a machine or an engine, so no 2 pieces are exactly alike. And we have a jewel set in a golden chaton fixed by 2 blued screws, a nod to the way that jewels were set in bridges and plates during the pocket watch era. Outboard, you can see beautifully broad streifen or stripes laid down across the mono bridge at center, and a black polished ratchet wheel. Everything here is surpassing in its beauty and quality. If you love this watch, reach out to me. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.